Hi, I am Jackie Toops from ArmyWife101.com, and today we've got a very special guest with us. I have Britt Harris. She is a Gold Star wife and a mom, and she and her baby have recently been in videos that have gone viral from a photo shoot that they did with the battalion of her fallen husband's soldiers. Now, when Britt became pregnant, she told her husband while he was deployed, and sadly, just a week later, he was killed in action. So although he hasn't been able to see and enjoy his beautiful baby, we certainly can. And Britt is going through so many life changes just in the recent months here. And I'm so grateful that you're here to talk with us today. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to learn a little bit more about your story and find out how we can better support you and your beautiful baby Christian. So thank you so much for being with us today, Britt.
Thanks for having me.
So this is maybe our third or fourth attempt of a video today. We've had a few technical glitches. So Britt and I have been saying some of the same things on repeat. So maybe we'll be very good at them by now. But my very first question I wanted to ask, and I did ask, and hopefully you can fill us in again, is if you could tell me just a little bit about when you and Chris met. I'm very interested in your love story.
Okay. I'll start over. So Chris started just kind of talking to me on Facebook, just normal. And I kept posting like constantly about how I wanted a because my dream dog. I wanted one. I was, flooding everyone's newsfeed with how I wanted a French dog. And he commented and was like, "Oh, I'll get you one. And I'll, should I put the ring on the dog's collar or just hand it right to you?" And I was like, "Oh, this guy." Then a few days later, I was out downtown with some friends. Her husband had just come back from a deployment, and they were also friends with Chris. And they said, "Oh, let's invite Chris out." I was like, "Oh, the guy with the blue eyes, yes, tell him to come out." So he came walking through the door in this dark blue flannel shirt, and I was just so giddy. I was like, "Oh my God, he's here! I'm nervous." And he walked up to me at the bar, and he was looking straight in front, like beside me, not speaking to me at all. And I was like, "This guy's really not going to speak to me. Like, he came all the way out here, he's not going to speak to me." And he was just looking straight forward. And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to say," I was like, "Well, where's my dog?" And he just like grinned, and he was looking straight forward, never even looked at me, just smiled, kind of shook his head. And then we started talking. And then, the rest of the night we hung out together at this Irish pub that downtown, Southern Times, that we hung out. It was like our place. We went there all the time. It was like the first night we met, that's where we went. And after that, Chris, just started trying to woo me, and he would show up with roses at my job and surprise me. And I'd go to lunch, and he'd be sitting out there parked beside my car, like, "Surprise, I'm taking you to lunch today." And he was just like an over-the-top romantic. We were just crazy about each other. This fairy tale love that everyone tries to get in life, and like we had it. We were always getting into mischief together, and I was like, we joked around with Bonnie and Clyde, like best friends, partners. Like no one saw one without the other. If for some reason he walked in a door without me, if I stopped to talk to someone, "Oh, well, where's Brittany?" Everyone just expected us to always be together because we always were. We were inseparable. We met on, like, I didn't stay without him unless, he was in the field maybe once during our relationship where he wasn't with me, and I was like, "Come home." Like, we lived really close to Fort Bragg, so he was only maybe 10 minutes into from me, but that was probably the only time I stayed from him.
So, and that's a really incredible love story. And I think it's wonderful that you found someone who cared for you so much and was so romantic and became your best friend. How long was it that you two dated before you decided to get married?
9 months.
All right. When you know.
We were planning it maybe 2 months in. We were like, "Let's go get married. Let's do it." And he was like, "I have to have a wedding for my mom." Like he and his mom were extremely close. Chris was adopted. His mom was actually in the room when he was born and was handed straight to her, and she adopted him. And they had this like unbelievable bond. They were so close. And it was just him and her for the first 13 years of his life. And I was always so jealous of their relationship. It was so beautiful. And, he was so close to her. but it never interfered in our relationship. You always hear like these like horror stories about monster-in-law and, you know, a mother-in-law who oversteps her bounds, or a mama's boy who doesn't know how to stand up to his mom, or, you know, moms are too involved in the relationship. I never, ever had that problem. Like, she was really involved and really close to him, but so respectful to us. They were so close. They talked every day, and she was always like, well, how's Brittany, you know? Always checking in on me too, to the point where he started getting like a little jealous, because every single night she a text message before bed, they would have like their little saying that they do each other, and then she started texting me too, so we would both get like a text message at the same time, and he would like cut his eyes and be like, is that my mom? And I'm like, yeah. So like I actually ended up being really close to her as well. But that was a lot of the driving force of why we didn't, you know, run off, was because he was like, I have to have a wedding for my mom. Like, I have to have a wedding. I have to have a first dance with her. You know, we have to do. So I was like, all right, well, let's just throw something together, because I don't care. Like, I just want to get married. So we planned a really small family kind of, you know, wedding out in Asheville in the mountains. And we got married on the French Broad River. It was gorgeous. It was in October 15th, 2016. The sun was setting, and this big, huge river behind us, and we were like on the banks, and I had this over the top, ridiculously big dress. It was beautiful. But yeah, we were planning it pretty much right into the relationship. Like, well, we're getting married. We're just going to do it. We were picking out rings, and people were like, oh, okay. That's fast, don't you think? And we were like, no, we would have done it already if we didn't have, like, you want to actually have a wedding.
Oh, that's really touching. And Asheville, especially that time of the year, is beautiful. So I can just imagine it was a gorgeous, perfect day for you.
Yeah. The weather was great. The leaves were changing. It was so pretty.
That's so fantastic. Were you able to take a honeymoon afterward?
No, that was something that, because he was on he was coming off of or going on to some type of restriction with the Army, where he had to be within a certain radius of the base. So we ended up not being able to take a honeymoon. And our plan was, after he got back from the deployment, to use some of the money. He was going to take me somewhere. I think it's, I'm probably wrong about this. I think it's the Bahamas, where they have like these pigs that just hang out in the ocean. And like an ad popped up on Facebook, and I'm like the biggest animal lover. And I was like, Chris, you have to take me to see these ocean pigs. And he was like, that is so dumb. No. And I was like, that is where I want to go for my honeymoon. I want to go see these water pigs. Take me there. And he was like, you're going to base your honeymoon around pigs. And I was like, yes, that is what I want. So that was what we were planning on doing. Obviously, we never got to have our honeymoon, which was sad. But
well, and water pigs. I've never heard anyone say that. So you just make my day.
He was like, you're ridiculous. And I was like, that is what I want to do, because every time I travel somewhere, I like to find something to do with animals. Like, I went to some place in Virginia, I think, and rode an elephant. I went to Alaska and did some dog sledding. You know, went to the Outer Banks and rode horses on the beach. Like, my thing is, every time I go on a vacation, I find something to do with animals. And I was like, we're going to go on a vacation. We're going to find animals to hang out with. And, you know, Chris just kind of rolled with it. He was like, whatever makes you happy, you know, I'll do it. And it was such a good mentality. Happy wife, happy life. That was Chris. Whatever I wanted, he did it.
Good man. Good man.
Yeah.
So how long were the two of you married before you found out he had to deploy?
I think there was talk of his deployment maybe a month after we got married, maybe the same time. Like, they told him pretty far out, like, hey, this time next year, pretty much, like, you will be deploying. And there's no exact date, but plan on in the summer of 2017. So we knew, like, pretty soon after we were married.
Wow. Well, and things like that, with that on the horizon, it always kind of weighs on you, because you wonder, you know, what's it going to be like? What if? But I would say the good thing about that is, you know, you've got so much time together that you can maximize before he's gone for a while. So did you do anything special in that meantime, from when you started, I guess, as a brand new Army wife to when he had to leave? Were you able to make some special memories in that time?
We spent as much time, like, together as humanly possible. And we went to see some of his family that was down in Florida the month before he deployed. Like, he had like block leave, and we took a trip down to Florida and went and saw as much possibly could during it was like a week and a half or something like that. We saw family.
That's good. So it was almost like a honeymoon, just in between. Yeah. That's really good. So, are you from the area where he was stationed with the military?
Yeah, I'm actually from like an hour from Fort Bragg. Like I grew up there my whole life, and he moved up here to like Pinehurst area when he was 13. So he joined the Army and then ended up being stationed here. So he didn't even leave. So yeah, we were both like from here, which people always thought was weird because everyone in the Fayetteville community is from somewhere else. And when I tell them like, oh no, I'm like local, it like blows their mind. I've never met anyone that wasn't like stationed here. I'm like, oh, me.
Oh, but that's so perfect though, because you've got family and friends nearby, and I know just having that support, that's very rare in the military to have local people like that you already know and have grown up with.
Oh yeah, because people ask me, well, do you have help? Do you have family? I'm like, oh, both of our families are here. And they're like, wow. I'm like, yeah, like his parents live here, my family lives here.
Well, that's excellent. Well, so you had this incredible love story where you were instantly swept up. You knew he was the one. You had a beautiful wedding, great relationship with the mother-in-law, and then kind of this quick whirlwind, I guess, honeymoon phase before he had to deploy. So can you tell me a little bit about what that was like on the last day you saw him before he left?
Oh, I would say probably starting about 1 or 2 months out from his deployment. I just started getting like really bad anxiety to the point where I was like, I'm going to have to go see a doctor. Like, it was like making me physically sick. And I regret that a lot, that I let my nerves get get me so upset. I should have been spending that time like making Chris happy and paying more attention to him. But instead I was like, I'm worried about this and I'm worried about that. I'm worried you won't come home. I'm worried this and I'm worried that. And we had, as soon as we got married, we were like, let's start trying to have a baby, because Chris wanted to be a dad. I was terrified of the idea of because I had no baby experience at all. And I was like, I'm going to be a terrible parent. I don't even know how to change a diaper. Like, I don't know what to do. I was the youngest in my family, so I never had to take care of anybody. And Chris was like, no, let's have a baby. Let's try. So we started trying. And then, the idea of being pregnant and him being deployed was like, I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. No more. We're not trying anymore. We'll try when you get back. And he agreed, like, yeah, that would be a lot to go through by myself. And then my anxiety just kept worse and worse and worse. And I was scared, like, what happens if I get pregnant on accident and you're not here? Or I have to do the whole pregnancy by myself? Or I'm pregnant and you don't come home? Or what if you just don't come home? And, Chris was such an optimistic person. It kind of upset him that I would talk like that. Like, don't think like that. Don't say things like that. That's not good, mentality to have. You should be more positive. Things are going to be fine. I'm going to come home. We're going to do A, B, and C. Like, we're going to be fine. But I just couldn't get it out of my head. Like, what happens if he doesn't come home? Like, I'm more of a pessimist, I guess. And I got so caught up in it. Like, I probably made the last couple weeks bad. Like, not like, miserable, but I was just so depressed at the idea of he's leaving. I've never been apart from him since the day other than maybe one trip. So I'm with him all day. We talk nonstop. Like, I got in trouble all the time at my job because we were texting all the time. I just couldn't shake the feeling. Like, what if he doesn't come home? Like, I couldn't get rid of it. I wish I had about that.
Well, don't beat yourself up too much, because I think every military spouse goes through that. I know I did. And I know that even prior to my husband's deployment, we were fighting about stupid things because we were so stressed and walking on eggshells and trying to make it perfect. But there was this tension that was underlying. And I think as much as you try to make it special and do like one last date or dinner or something, it's just there. As much as
this elephant in the room, like, you're leaving in 2 weeks, like, you're doing this countdown in your head, but you're trying to pretend it's not happening, and you're trying not to count down, and it seems like the days start going by super fast, and as much as you don't want them to. And then if you didn't do something one day, it's like, oh, I wasted a whole day. We could have been off, doing something romantic, and it just so much stress on it. I was like trying to be in a good mood, trying to be happy. I'm just so down. I just couldn't, think positive as much as I wanted.
It's true. I think all of us, we try to be supportive as much as we can be. But even people who identify as optimistic, it's just tough. It's scary. You don't know where they're going, what they're doing, as you said, what's going to happen. So I think that I understand you saying, oh, I wish it had been a different way, but I also understand exactly why it was the way it was, because I think that's what we all go through. So you weren't alone in that. So then he did leave, and you were able to have a good send-off at least?
I just sat there like so unhappy, like, a bump on a log. Like everyone was kind of talking and, so I guess I had some other stressors going on. My grandpa had passed away in February of 2017 unexpectedly, and he had raised my whole life. So I pretty much lost my father here. And then the day that Chris was deploying, the next morning, my best friend was being taken off life support after having complications here in Lake. And Chris and I were the godparents of her baby, and we were there at the hospital when she gave birth, and we were so excited. And, her and her husband and me and Chris, we were all very close. And she just started having complications afterwards, and she ended up going into a coma. And they told her, they claimed her brain dead, and they were saying next morning we're going to take her off life support. So when Chris was on a plane headed to Afghanistan, I was headed to the hospital to watch her be taken off life support. So, even if I had the ability to think positive about the deployment, I had so much other stuff going on. So all these couples were taking pictures and, kissing and, saying their goodbyes. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, my husband's leaving. My best friend is, dying. I just lost my grandpa. Like, it was so much at one time. I was kind of in like a daze of like, this is so much stress to take on at one time. So I hugged him. I said, I love you, cried and was like, please come home to me. Make sure you do that. And, he gave me a kiss, got on the bus, waved real big, smiled. I mean, he was, excited. He had to have that deployment pass.
I do.
I have to have it.
I don't get it. Yeah.
You don't need it. And, he also had a lot of guilt about leaving me because of everything that was still happening here. And so he was like, I feel like a bad husband leaving you, knowing that you have to go to the hospital tomorrow to be part of that. And I was like, no, don't worry about me. Focus on the deployment. And it was just a lot. Like, I wish it had all played out differently so we could have enjoyed it. But there was so much outside stress happening on top of him leaving.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm just so sorry you've had such a fair share of heartache lately. I mean, it's just been one tragedy after the next. And I hope that there's some silver lining in there for you. And I hope that things will look brighter moving forward. So I want to talk about when you found out you were pregnant, because you were just saying you weren't planning on it. You weren't ready for it. What was that day like?
So Chris left, and, we were under the impression that everything was fine, like not pregnant, which was weird because I actually took a pregnancy test because I had been doing some acne treatments, and they required a pregnancy test. And, I had been off of it for a period of time, but they were like, we have to do this just for legal reasons. So I was like, okay. So I took a pregnancy test the week of him leaving, and I came back to the car, and they were like, all right, you're good to go. Your skin looks great. You're not pregnant. Everything's good. And I was like, yay. So we really did not think, anything was happening. And I would say maybe 3 weeks in, I started feeling weird, and I thought I was just being hopeful. And I was like, I've convinced myself. And I was like, that's just a normal symptom that I'm just making dramatic in my head. So I'm hopefully wishing for things that aren't happening. And then I started Googling everything, how early can a pregnancy test be accurate? And I thought, well, if I am pregnant, I started entertaining the idea, and I was daydreaming at work. And I was like, if I was pregnant, I would do this, and this is how I would announce it. And I had it all picked out, and well, I'll send it to him in a care package, and this is how I'll announce it on social media. And I was like, oh, no, don't get your hopes up. It's probably nothing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take a pregnancy test. So I went and got a pregnancy test, and I didn't even have to wait the full minute I think it required. It was instantly positive. And I was like, ah. And then I took like 10 more because I was like, there's no way this is real. I have them all like in a little box somewhere. It's probably gross, but I saved them because it was so ridiculous how many I took. So I ran out to the store and bought like a onesie just from like $1. Ran back home, took some stickers from a care package I had already made in, and spelled out, Chris, you're going to be the dad. And then I like two pregnancy tests on it. And I was like, this is going to make him the happiest in the world. Like, he loved it. He was great with, like, just supernatural. Like, we had a lot of talks about it. Like, if we ever have kids, you're going to be the one that does everything. I don't know what to do. He was like, yeah, I'm okay with that. So I told him, I was like, hey, I really need to talk to you. I had a terrible day at work. I need you to Skype me. And at that point, he'd only been there like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. And we weren't really Skyping yet. He was still getting into the routine of things. And I was like, no, you've got to Skype me. I had a terrible day. Like we have to talk. And he was like, oh my God, like what, Brittany? And I was like, no, we have to talk about it face to face. I thought I was being a drama queen, but so he called me, and he's like brushing his teeth, and like everybody was getting ready, and I was so nervous. It shouldn't have been because I knew he was going to be happy, but I couldn't think of words. Like I just was like dumbfounded, like what to say. Like how do you tell someone that? Like I've never had to do this before. I wanted to say something really pretty or funny or catchy. I don't know. I was thinking in my head like something that would sound cool, and I couldn't. And I was just like, and he's like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, okay, what do you want to talk about? I was like, I don't know. I just didn't say anything. And he was like, okay, Brittany, like if you're not going to talk, I have to go. And I was like, okay. And I just like turned the camera on through the onesie and just like held it there. And he read, Chris, you're going to be a dad. And then I heard him go, are you serious? Are you serious? I turned the camera back, and he was like all teared up. And he was like, I'm going to be a dad. And I was like, yeah, like I'm pregnant. Like I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant. And he just started yelling out to everyone behind him, like, I'm going to be a dad. And I started panicking. And I was like, no. Like, I haven't even been to the doctor. It could be a false positive. We don't know anything. You know, I just got off that acne medicine. So, like, you know, I need to make sure everything's healthy, everything's safe. Like, don't tell anybody. He told everybody. He didn't stop. He told me he would, but then he would just, you know, text me the next day and say, oh, well, someone guessed. I'm like, not guessing, you're telling. So he was extremely excited. Immediately started like trying to pick out names, and then he was like, you know, how old does the baby have to be to go see the water pigs? And I was like, oh my God, no, we're not taking a honeymoon if we're having a baby. And he was like, well, how old does the baby have to go fishing in like the ocean? I was like, no. Like he was just planning all of this stuff, and I was over here having like an anxiety attack of how are we going to pay for baby? We don't even own our own house. You know, we live in a 1-bedroom place. We have nowhere to even put a crib. Like, do I quit my job and stay home and take care of the baby? Do we, you know, try to find somewhere we can afford for daycare? You know, I was just stressing. He was on cloud 9. You know, that was kind of our dichotomy of our relationship. Chris was super happy, optimistic. I was the worst. So, you know, we were talking about names and ideas, and he was like, I want a boy because I can take him fishing. And I was like, you can take girls fishing. Yes. And he was like, yeah, you can. I was like, they make Barbie fishing poles. Yes, you can. And he was like, I want a boy. And I was like, whatever. It's going to be a girl. Watch and see. And then he convinced me that it was going to be a boy. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, maybe it will be a boy. I should have just stuck with my initial instinct because, you know, obviously it ended up being a girl.
That's really incredible. I like got tears in my eyes with how happy he was because I could just picture him like yelling it and being so excited. I think that's wonderful.
People were hugging him, and I was like screaming. I was like, Chris, stop telling people. And he was like, just put his phone down and started hugging people. I was like, oh my God, no, he can't tell anyone. He was not able to keep it.
Well, I'm so glad that he was able to get such great news. I think that's just so important. I mean, anytime you're deployed, it's good to have any sort of positivity, but I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. So that's wonderful that Christian arrived in the way that she did, at the right time.
Yeah.
It might not have felt like the right time back then, but I think it's worked out really well. So, all right. So you tell him, and then can you tell me what happens next in the story with you and Chris?
Yeah, anytime anyone asks this, like, I don't know, it's just emotional. Because it goes from being so happy, cloud nine, to the absolute worst day of my entire life. I was starting to be a little positive because, I had just gone through two huge losses. And I thought, well, things are about to get good again. And I got like a weekend to the pregnancy. I had my first appointment. I found out I was 5 weeks pregnant. Told him everything looked good, from the blood work. And then I started sending him links one morning to houses that we should try to buy or rent something, somewhere to live. And I was sending all these links. And I knew Chris's schedule and how it matched up to mine, the time difference. And I knew he should have been like eating dinner or whatever. And I wasn't getting any answer back. And I just kept sending more messages and more messages, hoping for, him to just be like, oh yeah, I've been busy. And then it started to go past the time where I started getting like worried. And I already worried so much. So I was just trying to convince myself, like, nothing's wrong. I'm just overthinking it. And I was just having a bad day already. So I asked one of my coworkers to go to lunch with me. And I was thinking, I'm a little worried about Chris. He's not answering. Okay, let's just go to lunch and get your mind off everything. And I sat down at the table, like waiting on our food. And I got a notification from a military news station that I follow. And it said 2 soldiers killed in Afghanistan. And I just kind of threw my phone down and like started like freaking out. I was like, you got to take me now. Like, I have to go. And, he was kind of confused. Wrong, are you okay? And I was like, I think it's Chris. I think Chris died. And she was like, that's crazy. Why would you think that? And I was like, no, I think I have to go. So she took me back to work. And I was absolutely hysterical, like crying, couldn't breathe, like mascara running down my face. One of my managers took me to an office and was like, what is wrong, Brittany? I think Chris died. And they were like, what makes you think that? And I was like, well, he's not answering his phone. And there's an article out. And they were like, that doesn't mean anything. It could be anybody. And he's just like on a blackout, when they're not allowed to use their phone. And I was like, no, I know Chris. And Chris cared about me enough that it didn't matter if he would have gotten kicked out of the Army. He would have found a way to contact me. That was Chris. I was his number one priority. And there were no consequences that were too great to make sure that I would take it. And I was like, I know him. He would find a way. He would break all the rules. He would do something. He would have someone send me a message. He would find me. And he's not. And I was like, I'm pregnant. I can't be. And nobody knew I was pregnant. Okay, go home. If you think you can drive like this. So they made me wait until I was calm enough to drive. And I just cried the whole way to my house. And I just paced my yard. And I started calling like FRG leader and just like yelling, like, someone needs to tell me right now because I think it's Chris. And they're like, no names have come down. We don't know anything. Like, don't worry. And I just knew. I was like, I know it's him. Like, I know it's Chris. And I started sending more and more messages. Chris, answer the phone. Chris, answer me. Chris, answer me. And then the messages started just pending. Instead of being delivered and not open, they were just pending. And I was like, well, that's it. Like, it's. And I was just calling people, hysterically begging them, just take all this torture away and just tell me, like, just say it. Like, I don't care if it's breaking the rules. Just tell me that it's him so I can know, because it's killing me not knowing, but knowing. And everyone kept saying, no, there's no names yet. We don't know. And I just kept pacing my yard, like literally walked in circles, an hour or more. And then I saw a car pull up and it had the government tags. And these two soldiers got out. And I was just like, so mad, that no one told me. Like, why didn't someone just call me? And I know that's not how it's done. And it's supposed to be done with respect in this protocol. But I was so mad that I'd been sitting there for hours waiting for them, and they had to find me because they had our previous address on file because Chris didn't update everywhere he needed to because I had literally moved the month before he deployed. So they were still trying to find me. I was so angry that they were at my house. I was so angry that, I had been waiting all day for this news. And I just told him, I was like, you can leave. I don't want to talk to you. And, one of them said, are you the wife of Chris Harris? And I said, yeah. And he said, on behalf of an Army, I regret to inform you that it was killed on August 2nd, 2017. And he went through this, whole speech on a paper. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to hear it. I want you to leave my house. I want you to get in your car and I want you to leave. And they just kind of stood there, we can't do that. We have to go through this, ma'am. I'm so sorry. And they're like, is there anything we can do for you? And I was like, it started really sinking in, like, Chris just died. Like, Chris really isn't here anymore. And then I started panicking. My heart was racing and I wanted to cry, but I wanted to, and no emotions were. It was probably the weirdest thing I've ever felt. I didn't know what emotion to feel, and it was like a brand new emotion. So I just kind of standing there in shock, but at the same time, like, I felt like I was going to pass out. And I told him that. I was like, I think I'm going to pass out or something. And my heart's racing too hard. I think he just put me to sleep. And they were like, okay, like, you want us to call an ambulance? And I was like, yes, please do that. So they called an ambulance, and I was like, I'm pregnant. And I saw him start flipping through papers, and I was like, yeah, nobody knows that but Chris. And so the ambulance showed up, and they put me in, and they were like, there's nothing we can give you. There's nothing we can do for you because you're pregnant. And I was like, put me to sleep. I was so mad. I was like, do that. Like, it's your job. Do it. Put me to sleep so I can just wake up and it'll be okay. Because I was convinced, like, if I go to sleep right now, everything's okay.
Yeah.
And they asked me, like, well, we can't do that. Is there anything we can do? And I got a text message, and it was Chris's mom. And she was like, hey, Britt, have you heard from Chris today? I haven't gotten, my daily text message. So I'm like, okay, well, obviously her notifications come in next. And I don't want her to, like, without me. So I asked them to drive me to her house and notify her with me there. And they just packed my bag, took me in the house, packed my bag, fed my dogs, got everything taken care of for me. I just kind of stood, and they drove me to her house. And they told me, you just sit in the car. Don't get out until we tell you to get out. And I saw them, like, walk up to the door and tell his parents. And that's for sure one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like, I saw my best friend get taken off life support. I had them drive to my own house. Nothing was worse than watching his parents get that's awful. Like, something like nightmares are made out. I don't know how that's a job that you can do, but I just, she kind of dropped to the ground and started screaming, like, not Chris, Chris, not Chris. It was bad. They finally came to the car and told me, like, you can go to her now. And I just went and held her. I mean, you could tell, like, she didn't want to be touched. It looked like she was literally, like, her heart was physically. And they eventually left. And I was inside with her, and she was just crying and crying. And I wasn't crying, but I think I was still in shock at that point. And I felt bad. His mom just worst news of her life. I just got the worst news of my life. And she's crying, and I'm just sitting here, like, awkward. I'm like, why am I not crying? Like, my heart is hurting. And I went up to her and I was like, I don't know if this is going to make things better or worse or more sad, but I'm pregnant. And she just looked shocked and she was, no, that makes sense. And then I finally tried to fall asleep that night in the room, and I was too upset to sleep in Chris' room. So I just went downstairs and slept on the floor. And then that's kind of when it all hit. And I cried. I so loud that his parents came in the door to, just be as loud as I kind of needed to. I was just screaming physically because I was like, I'm pregnant, and my husband just I didn't sleep. And then, the news came out, and then people started messaging me like, please tell me that's not true. And it just got to be a little overwhelming. But finally, it was like, I confirmed it 3 or 4 in the morning. Yeah, Chris was 2 soldiers. And then I called a Gold Star spouse that I've actually known for years. And I had knew that she was like a Gold Star spouse, and she had lost her husband like 20 years ago. But I didn't really understand, like, she's Gold Star. Okay. But, when that moment hit, I was like, I need to talk to someone who knows what I've been through. And I called her probably 3 o'clock. And because she had sent me a Facebook message. I was like, I just saw the news. If you need anything, let me know. And I was like, yes. Like, I picked up my phone, like, frantically, like, trying to dial her. And she answered, and I could just hear her crying on the other end of the phone. And I cried to her, and I was like, what do I do? Like, you've been through this. What do I do next? And she started, like, talking to me, like, you can do this. You can get it. You're going to go to Dover. You're going to do this. These are the next steps. Kind of preparing me for what was so more surprise. But, at that moment, that's who I needed to talk to. Was another goal.
Good. Oh, that was incredibly emotional. I thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm so sorry for your loss. The way you painted that picture is just heartbreaking and heart-wrenching, because he was your best friend, and here you are. You wanted him to promise that he'd come back, and you were having a baby together. And my heart just goes out to you so much. So thank you so much for sharing that.
It was just like extra frustrating because he was so eager to come home that he was going to sign up for some school, so it would cut his deployment in half. So he would make sure that he was actually here, and he was already like trying to do that, put that into work. Because I was like, after what happened to my best friend during labor, I was like, promise me you will not make me go to labor by myself. Like, I am terrified because I saw the worst case scenario happen to her. And he was like, I promise you, like, you have my word. I will not make you go into labor by yourself. I will do whatever I have to do. I will go to any school. I will do anything I have to. I'm home. I'm with you when you go into labor. I was like, okay. So we had like all these plans of like, well, we got to start looking for a house. He's going to be home soon. Like, he's going to be here. And I had like so much comfort in knowing that he was coming home soon. I wouldn't even have to do the whole night. He was going to find a way to come back. And then all of a sudden it hit me like, I got to do this alone now. So it was just, I was even angrier because I was like, we had a plan. He was going to come home.
I have to like regain my composure now over here because that's a story. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your sacrifice. I know it wasn't something you wanted to give up at all. I know you didn't plan on being a Gold Star wife. I know you didn't plan on having a baby that you would raise alone. And I admire your strength, and thank you so much for talking to us today. So I guess perhaps maybe we should fast forward to March, because I understand you got a very special delivery on St. Patrick's Day.
Yes. So I kept telling everyone I was going to have her on St. Patrick's Day, and even my doula was like, no, probably not. You're a first-time mom. You're probably going to go past your due date. And I was like, nope, you wait and see. I'm going to have her on St. Patrick's Day a week early because it's St. Patrick's Day, and it makes me think of Chris, and our place was this Irish pub, and I was like, it would just be so fitting to have her on St. Patrick's Day, and I'll, when she's old enough, I'll take her there.
Yes.
And everybody was like, I really want her to be on St. Patrick's Day for you. And I was like, yeah, this is going to happen. And it was Um, the week of her birth, I had like the first good dream about Chris. All the dreams about him after his death were nightmares, to the point where I was going to see a counselor immediately, obviously, but that was one of the things I was like, I'm scared to go to sleep. I want to go to sleep so I don't have to be awake and deal with this. When I go to sleep, I wake up and like, I'm scared because I'm having like actual nightmares about his death. Or I'm dreaming that it's not real. Like, going to sleep was torture. It was awful. And the fact that I couldn't take anything to help me sleep made it even worse.
Yeah.
And then pregnancy dreams are already kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I was having just terrible, terrible nightmares all throughout the pregnancy. And the week she was born, I had the first good dream about it. And we had gone to a butterfly exhibit in Florida right before he had deployed. And I dreamt that we were back there, and we had a little girl with us, and she was wearing my KIA bracelet with his name on it, and he was there. And I was aware of the fact that Chris had died, but he was still in the dream. We had a little girl with us. It was like, he wasn't talking, and we walked into the butterfly exhibit, and like butterflies just kind of flew, and he went like in front of me and like looked back and was like, come on. And I just, I felt so at peace. And I woke up and I had this big smile on my face, and I was like, I think I'm finally starting to accept Chris. I texted his mom like immediately that morning, and I was like, I just had a good dream about Chris. I've never had a good one since his passing. And she was like, good, maybe that's a sign, that Christian's coming soon. And I was like, yeah, I hope so. And then I think it was that day or the next day I went shopping because obviously nothing fit me. And I was and I saw this homeless guy, and he was in front of a store, and he was pacing and like angry and like kind of yelling to himself, and people were avoiding him. And that always hurts me to see people like avoid a person just because there's something wrong with them. And I was like, I'm not going to treat someone different. So I walked up, giant pregnant lady, and he was pacing back and forth, talking, yelling, and he stopped and he looked at me. He was like, hey, and I was like, hi. And he's like, congratulations on your baby girl. And I was like, what? And he was like, and he just smiled and he went back to like talking to himself. And I was like, did that just happen? Like, I know there's only a 50-50 chance that you would get it right or wrong, but like, that was so weird. It was like surreal. And I like walked into the store and I was like, oh my God. And I was just still in this like cloud nine kind of like mentality. Like, I'm at peace. Things feel good, but things are weird all of a sudden. Like, I feel like Chris is like trying to reach out to me. And then I prayed to Chris and I was like, Chris, bring her to me on St. Patrick's. I want her on St. Patrick's Day. I am ready to go into labor. I'm ready to be a mom. Bring her to me. And at 10 o'clock on the 16th, I went into labor. And I had her on the 17th at 12:03 p.m.
Oh.
And some of Chris's unit actually was home. They came home that day. And we were at Green Ramp, and some of the wives were like, hey, where are you? Like, the guys are here. Do you want to come see them? And I was like, I am having Christian right now. So that was like, totally bizarre. Like, people were like, you really had her on the day they came home? And I was like, yeah, St. Patrick's Day. Like,
giving me chills over here. That's incredible. Wow, the timing.
They came home, and his mom, often said, well, I think that was Chris coming home with the rest of the guys.
I think so.
Because she's definitely he's a big part of Christian, obviously. So we were like, that's it. That's Chris coming home to us, and Christian's here now. And I didn't have any visitors because I was like, I'll see you guys. Like, we'll get together. I promise. Just give me, some chance to recover. So that is how the photo shoot actually came into play. I was like, all right, I wasn't letting anyone come see me because it was really emotional. I was happy and Christian was finally here, but at the same time, it was a big reminder that Chris wasn't. Because, the guys came home and Chris didn't come home with them. And that was a really hard day to realize that. Because sometimes, while he was, after he had passed, I would pretend that he was still deployed. And I didn't do it on purpose. My mind literally just played tricks on me. And I would look at the clock and be like, oh, okay, it's almost time for Chris to be eating dinner so I can Skype. And I was like, that's not true. Like, I don't know why I did that to myself. Just trying to cope with it and process it because it was such a shock. And it took a while to stop thinking like that. And I had to really sit myself down, like in therapy, and be like, he's not coming home. When they come home, he is not getting off that bus. So when they came home, it was a definite, like, in my face reminder, like, Chris he's not with them. Because it was so easy to think that he was still deployed with everybody else. Because Chris's casket was closed. So I never saw him. I never saw anything. So it was easy to, kind of get swept up in this idea that he's still there. But that's why I wanted some time to myself after she was born to really, bond with her, obviously, and then to just deal with the fact, like, it's really setting in that Chris is not here anymore. I can't play mind tricks anymore to make myself feel good. And I didn't want to see people, especially people that reminded me of Chris. Plus, my hormones were so crazy. Was not expecting all that. People told me I was crying like all the time. And so we planned. I was like, we're all going to get together, and I will make sure everyone gets to meet her, and we'll do a big photo shoot. It was my photographer's idea. She had actually done pictures for Chris's funeral. She did my maternity photos. She did the pictures of Christian, her first 48 hours in the hospital. And she was like, let's do another one with all the guys. And I was like, absolutely. So we planned it, and it was supposed to be outside. And that was the first time a lot of them had seen Christian. And it was supposed to be outside, and it started raining like crazy. And everybody was there in their uniforms, and they were sweating. They were like, let's just do it inside. And I was like, okay, yeah, we have to. It's just not going to be as pretty, I guess. But the fact that we had it inside meant that Kristen could open her eyes because she was fussing and, she was just cranky. And we put her, I'm actually holding Christian, and then their hands are around both of us. But you can't see that I'm actually in the photo. And the photographer, she like stood up on a chair and was like hanging over everyone and was like, Christian. And she like opened her eyes, and it was just like the most angelic pose, like her hands extended, and she just looked right into the camera, and it worked out perfectly being inside. But yeah, that's how the photo shoot came to be, is because I wouldn't let anyone come see me after she was born. So that was our time for everyone to actually get to see her.
And those photos were by Pinehurst Photography?
Yes.
Yes. Incredible. Well, and those blue eyes, I tell you, when I look at a picture of Christian next to a photo of Chris, I mean, I know where those eyes came from. It's almost like looking at his eyes. Do you feel the same way?
Oh, yeah. Like, everybody was like, I hope she has blue eyes. I hope she has blue eyes. And I was like, yeah, but probably have brown, because mine are brown, and that's dominant. Mm-hmm. When she was born, I was like, all right, let's see what color her eyes are. And they were like, well, they're blue, but most babies look blue when they're born anyway. Like, okay. And then every day they just got lighter and lighter. And I was like, I think she has blue eyes like Chris. Like, I cannot believe he passed down his eye color, because it was, he was mixed, and him having blue eyes was, kind of like, I was like, there's no way Christian will too. And sure enough, she has his blue eyes, and she's tan and dark hair, and she has his nose and everything. She's just like him, nothing like me at all.
And that happens so often with babies. I know I used to get frustrated when people said, "Oh, he looks just like Dad," and I thought I did all the work. But I'm sure in your case, that's actually it's nice to see a familiar face. I'm sure.
That's like him, because like sometimes I'll be talking to her, and she'll look over and like make a face. And I'm like, oh my God, like Chris made that face all the time. It's so weird. I try to take pictures of her doing it. And usually I'll do like a side-by-side picture on social media. Yeah. Her doing faces that Chris makes, or, his best friend, I'll send him, he's her godfather, and I'll send him like random videos and pictures of her. And he's like, oh my God, Chris. I'm like, I know, isn't she just like him? He's like, that is Chris's face for sure. Like, she'll be like all sassy and like crunching her nose and stuff. And I'm like, that's him.
That's incredible. Well, I know that I, like millions of other viewers, saw your video. It was making its rounds on Facebook, where it said something to the effect of baby of a fallen soldier is photographed with his unit or something. I'm sure it had a catchier title. But I saw that, and I was instantly in tears, and I thought, oh my gosh. And so I started doing web research. And that's how I found you initially. I thought, oh my gosh, she's at Fort Bragg. I know people there. That feels so familiar. So I started following you, messaging you through Facebook, following you on Instagram. And I am not alone. You have so many people who've been following you and keeping up and offering love and support, which is incredible. And I'm just so grateful that you talked to me, because I really wanted to reach out and see if there's a way that we can connect you to our audience and see if they can help as well. But I wanted to ask, did you think that that was going to go viral, and did you think you would be put in the spotlight like this?
Yeah, only because the gender reveal was the same way. It was pretty big. It wasn't as big, but it was pretty impressive. The fact that the gender reveal, because I asked them, I was like, hey, I want you guys to do the gender reveal because I'm alone and I'm not doing it the way I wanted to. So I want you guys to do it. We can all do it together. And they were like, okay, yeah. So I sent the confetti over, and they didn't know the gender, so their reactions were priceless. And then that went viral, and I ended up getting put on the Pickler and Ben talk show. And then I got, a few interviews from that, and that kind of, people were like, oh, I found you from your gender reveal. And I was like, okay, yeah. And then my maternity photos, there was a couple of news interviews about those. And then when Christian was born, everybody was like, we want pictures. And I was like, no interviews, nothing, no, not of Christian. And then his mom was like, maybe just one picture. Please post pictures, because I didn't want to post pictures of it. And I was like, fine. So I had her newborn photos done by Natasha. I have her linked on my social media. Natasha Soul Photography and our NPS photography. And she did her newborn photos where she's next to a picture of Chris's combat boots, and then where she's wrapped up in his uniform jacket. And then people were like, that's the baby. So then they started sharing that one, and that got pretty popular. Anything that's had to do with Chris or Christian, I just expect it to be big. But the photo shoot with the guys, it was definitely the biggest. I think there's one link that people keep tagging me in. One, maybe it's some type of maybe military type thing. But every time I get tagged in it, I think it has that specific video has 54 million views.
Wow. And
I get tagged in it every couple days, and they're like, hey, have you seen this? I'm like, yes, I have. And it goes up a few more thousand every time. And I'm like, yeah, I just things like that. If it's Chris or Christian, absolutely. People they love it. They want to follow up. And that's what always surprises me, is that people want to keep up. And I'm like, but I don't do anything. I'm boring. And they're like, no, how are you going? How's the baby? I know I'm a total stranger. And the most fun thing that I did after that photo shoot got really popular was I posted a Facebook status, and I asked people to comment where they were from, that they were reading the article. And it's several hundred comments long of people all around the world. And they're like, hey, I'm from Australia. I love baby Christian. And, New Zealand, Canada, Thailand, you name it, every place is on there. People saying I've seen your article or your video, and I'm so sorry. And, we love you here. And I'm like, that is crazy. All around the world, the gender reveal was, pretty big nationwide, but the picture of her with the guys, it was international. I actually did an interview with one of Germany's top TV stations, because they were like, we love you guys so much here. And then she was printed in a couple newspapers in India as well. Yeah.
Cool. That is fantastic. Well, I think that's wonderful that everyone's supporting you from around the world and showing love. And one of the things that I noticed when I was looking up, how can I help, aside from getting another interview with you, was that you have a GoFundMe account for Christian, and it's gofundme.com/goldstarbaby. And I'm linking to that with this interview, because I know that diapers aren't cheap, neither are clothes, neither are any expenses you're going to be facing for the next 18 years. And I know you said you received a lot of support when she was first born, but I also know that this would be an ongoing need. So I'd really like to ask our viewers who are watching if there's anything you can contribute no amount is too small, but to help set up baby Christian with the GoFundMe.com/goldstarbaby, I'm sure that she would appreciate it, that Britt would appreciate it. We with ArmyWife101.com would appreciate your support. It's just another way to show your love, help another military spouse, a mom, and someone whose life has just completely changed. I really can't. I have a hard time finding words for just how much your life has changed in such a short amount of time. But with all the heartache and the fears and the tribulations, you seem to have really elevated to this beautiful place of strength and some peace. And I'm sure that not every day is easy. And I'm sure that moving forward, you're going to have some challenges. But I'm truly impressed at your heart, at your honesty, at your eloquence, and at your persistence, because you have this beautiful child now, and I'm sure she is your reason for so many things. And I just think it's incredible what you're doing.
Yeah. I get like a lot of messages, and I try to be as helpful to people as possible because, like we were talking about earlier, like I went back to school to do counseling because I want to help people who will go through what I've been, specifically the Army or military. And I get a lot of messages from other Gold Star families, and then just some that are like, hey, I don't know you, but can you help me? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And one was a girl who told me, I get this a lot in different wording, but she said that something terrible had happened to her lately, and then she thought about me, and she realized that life wasn't as bad, and not in like a awful way. Well, your life is so awful, I don't feel bad about mine, but kind of, like if you can make it through what you've been through, then I can too. And she's like, you're an inspiration. I was like, that's the nicest thing. I love hearing that. It's such a huge compliment to know that you inspired or motivated someone. It's huge. But she told me that her house had burned down on her wedding night. And she thought of me, and she thought, if Brittany can do what she's done, then I can get through this too. And, I'm safe and I have everything that's really important. Those things can be replaced. And I was like, your house burned down on your wedding night and you thought of me? Like, that's awful. Like, I can't believe I said to you, and I always try to remind myself, like, it could always be worse. And I think that's a way that has helped me stay positive and keep pushing forward. Because a lot of people have asked me, like, how do you keep going? How do you just keep from hiding under a rock? And because no one would blame you. I think, that it could be worse. Like, there's so many worse things that could happen that, are happening to other people. Just the fact of how close I came to not having Christian, like that I got pregnant within the day before and the day of Christmas. Those odds are just unbelievable. I think how lucky I am that I still have her and how close I was to not having her. Or the fact that Chris's body actually came home. I know that's a weird thing to be grateful for, but I am. And I know that's not the case for some. So I always try to think it could be worse. And I'm happy. I know I've been dealt a terrible hand, but I'm grateful for at least some of the silver linings. It is morbid as it might seem. And that's just all I think about is always be worse. So just be grateful and do more things to help other people. And my biggest goal, other than being a good mom, is to obviously get Chris's name. Like, that is my main thing. Like, put Chris's name everywhere I can. Make sure it's somewhere that it's said. Make sure people are still talking about him. He's never forgotten. Because I know a lot of people say that, but eventually the stories kind of slack off. So I did an event on August 25th where I had his big paver with his name dedicated to him at the Airborne and Special Ops Museum in Fayetteville. So that's forever there. There's a stone at his unit headquarters where his name is there too. Just, anywhere I can permanently put Chris, I try to do it to make sure that even after I'm gone, his name is still being said and that Christian can grow up. Dad's name is here, it's here, it's here. There's a lot of memorials where his name is put in like that, and I try to go to all those dedications as well.
That's incredible, and that's beautiful that his memory will live on, and it is going to live on through your daughter. And I think what you told me in the beginning of our interview, how you were so pessimistic, and he was the optimist telling you not to worry and this and that. you sound like him now, is how you described him. I feel like he would be so proud of you to see how you've handled all this and how you're still going and you're going forward with positivity and love and you're inspiring others and giving to others. And I think that's so truly beautiful. So I do admire you, Britt. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you. Like I tell people all the time, like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Christian. Like I would have taken like that easy way of hiding and not ever talking to people, because that would be easier and it would make me feel better. And I wouldn't do interviews and I wouldn't talk about like the worst day of my life, and I could go on with my life like that and just, keep to myself. And I've thought about that a lot, but I think, well, Christian deserves so much and Chris deserves it. And I have to get out there and I have to do things for her. And then because of her is why I, was taking such good care of myself. And I was getting up every morning and trying to eat, trying to take my prenatal, because for a while, like food was just repulsive. Not from the pregnancy, but just because I was breathing so bad. And I was like, no, I have to eat. I have to sleep. I have to take care of myself. I have to do all these things for my pregnancy. And then now that Christian's here, I'm like, well, I have to keep doing things to preserve Chris's memory and to make sure Christian knows how special she is. And then, for the Gold Star community as well. Like, I'm often shocked at how many people, especially in the veteran community, don't know what the term Gold Star is.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, I'm a Gold Star. And they're like, what is that? I'm like, oh, okay, well, then I need to be doing this more then, because like, we need to get that out there. Like, you need to know what that term means. Mm-hmm. So, I just think of it, well, I'm not doing this for myself, which is why I denied so many interviews to begin with. Or I was like, I don't want to do interviews. You can just do a story with Chris's picture and, things of Christian. I tried to say behind scenes as much as I could. And I was like, what good does that do? Like, I have to get out there and talk about Chris and Chris, or, no one else is going to. And I owe that to both of them, because neither of them can speak for themselves. So I have to be the one.
Oh, what an incredible advocate you are, and wife, mother, woman. I'm truly impressed, because you're choosing all of this. And I think you're really setting an example for others who may experience similar situations or any sort of hardship. You're showing that you can continue to move forward and you can make that choice and be positive. And I love the way that you are honoring Chris's memory and how lovingly you're raising Christian. And thank you for sharing your story with us, for sharing beautiful pictures of your baby with us. I highly recommend you all follow Britt on Instagram, because it's just adorable.
I've had some cute stuff. I'm not going to even be bashful about it. Like, I get some pictures of her.
Oh, well, and if there is any other way that we with Army Wife 101 can help you, please do let us know, because we do want to support you. And I'd like to thank you so much for being here today. I'd like to thank everyone who tuned in to watch me speak with Britt Harris. It's been a beautiful time, very touching, emotional, and inspiring. And I can't thank you enough, Britt. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, we will keep in touch. And thank you all for tuning in to ArmyWife101.com.